Hey, good morning everyone, Trackman44 here. Hey, the other day I was cutting some stacking strips for the sawmill lumber, and I was making quite a mess with all the dust. And I actually kind of, in the back of my mind, remembered about the dust collection systems I have. I have two of them. One of them is an overhead that goes to a cyclonic separator outside and everything. You know, it's all fancy and everything. Got blast gates and the whole bit. I'm not going to be installing that because I got to get my ceiling done and more stuff done inside the shed. So I decided to dig out this temporary one right here. This is another one that was given to me by the family of a good buddy of mine that passed away a couple of years ago, and I forgot it was actually sitting right over there in the corner, literally 25 feet from where we're at, 30 feet from where we're at. But anyway, it's a Central Machinery, so it's a cheapie, you know. But it's a Central Machinery 70 gallon, 2 horsepower, 110 volt machine. So I'm going to plug this thing in here, and we're going to see if it's going to blow the breaker. Probably going to dim the lights pretty bad. Well, that's a pretty good sign. Huh. Well, now see if there's any oil ports or grease ports or whatever on the motor. Go ahead and oil up the casters and go about the business of getting this thing hooked up to one of the planers. Well, the reason I dug this out this time is because I'm going to be working with some walnut. And I've noticed over the years, since I was in my 40s, I've been getting severe sinus headaches whenever I work with walnut sawdust. So, and then I found out that walnut sawdust, a real fine particulate, is considered to be carcinogenic in some people. And some people actually died from, I guess, cancer induced by the walnut sawdust. That might be hearsay, don't know for sure. But hey, I got the machine. It's been sitting here dormant for a couple of 3 years. May as well go ahead and put her to use, you know what I mean? Now the machine I'm going to be using for planing out walnut is going to be this 20-inch Grizzly. This has got a unique story. I had a buddy, well, the old buddy that passed away, that had these other tools and equipment. He had a Woodmaster 12-inch planer. Woodmaster is the modern version, or the modern name, I think, of the Foley bell saw. He had that with the sanding head and the molding head and all the gibs and the various counterweights for all the different molding bits that you could actually put in that molding head, and he just did not like it. And he told me, boy, he said, if I had either a 15 or a 20-inch Grizzly planer, he said, I'd trade even for it, you know. So I managed to go ahead and buy this Grizzly 20-inch planer. Never even plugged it in, but I brought it, put it in the back of the truck. Once I got delivery of it, took it down to his house and traded him even for that Woodmaster. That Woodmaster I went ahead and used and made all my trim up in the house, all my flooring, everything up there in the house out of oak and walnut, multiple kinds of oak and walnut and cedar, pine, just all kinds of material. And he ended up with this in here. When he passed away, I went ahead and bought this from his estate. So this was not given to me. The other stuff was, but this was not. I bought it from the estate. I've only used it once or twice since he's passed away. Incidentally, the last time I used it was for walnut. My son and myself went ahead and built a nice walnut swing for my daughter-in-law whenever she had my first grandson. Now, my old buddy was 80-some-odd years old, you know, and he was very good on maintenance, but for whatever reason, I don't think he had ever changed the blades or had the blade sharpened or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and change the blades out with a brand new set of blades. And we're going to take a look and see how bad those original blades are. I bet you they're the same ones that have been in there 28 years ago whenever I bought and traded this machine to him. You typically have a 2-blade, a 3-blade, or a 4-blade cutter head. Now that determines the amount of cuts per inch you get for the board speed that you're going through. Now a lot of them have for a DC drive motor that you can actually roll the end feed down to almost zero, and you can actually produce with sharp blades a near glass-like finish on the board coming right out of the planer. This one here, it's got end feed rolls, so it's a fixed feed rate, so you're at the mercy of the machine at feeding it through at the speed to get you a smooth finish, and that only happens when you have good sharp blades on it. So we're going to go ahead and take this thing apart, and this is a 4-blade cutter head, and this has been in there for a long time. I know, I think they're all original. I sprayed it down last night with WD-40, and I got this very first one broke loose. A lot of the manufacturers, I don't know which ones in particular, but a lot of the manufacturers actually has springs down inside a recess that you have to compress whenever you put your blades in, and then fit them into the elevation required to get all of them cutting exactly the same. Now in severe cases, I'll set up a dial indicator and I'll go ahead and dial indicate all the way across on my Woodmaster and on the other bell saw planer. I'll use that dial indicator and set every one of the blades at the exact height. This one here, I'm going to go, because it's a brand new set, I'm going to go with completely pushing them flush down to the base of the installation slot. But the way these work, like I said, I've got these loose already. This is the one blade here coming out, and boy is it nasty. Here's a great big notch right here that's about 1/4 of an inch long and a good 32nd of an inch deep. That's just absolutely terrible. That's unacceptable. And then what you have behind that blade is what they call a gib. Now this is a machined area down here that's of a specific dimension, and that machined area's got a specific angle. And that angle comes into play whenever you tighten the blade into position by use of these set screws on the back side of this gib right here. Now I have to clean all this debris out of here, clean that up completely thorough, and clean out the opening before we set it back down in there. And then we'll go about the business of adjusting the new blade into position. Oh yeah, and here's our springs. Just like I said, this one here's got springs on it. But right down here in that little recess is a little spring, just about the size or a little bit larger than an ink pen refill. This gib, you can see the taper on this guy right here, and you see this series of 6 bolts that are threaded through there. Those are right-handed threaded bolts. And whenever you put this in with the blade in front of it and turn this out to loosen the bolt in the hole, it actually puts pressure against the other side, the opposing side of the opening, which puts pressure that direction on the blade and locks the blade in a secure position. So with these cleaned and back down in the hole right there, the width of the gib and the blade is typically the same width as the actual cutter head. For contrast, here's a brand new blade right here compared to the old one right here. The surface of it doesn't matter as much as the actual cutting edge. Now this guy here is actually razor sharp, right straight out of the factory. But hopefully you can see, I'm going to slip this right down into the slot. Oops, I forgot one thing. I've got to put the springs in that slot first. And I put these little springs in that hole because you can't get your finger in there. I like just put them on something small and stick it right down inside there and slide that spring right down, and then take your fingernail and hold the spring into position and pull it out, and that's in there. Springs are in position. We can set our gib in place. The gib then will actually hold the spring in place because it kind of intersects the one side of the spring. Get those exactly the length of the cutter head and make sure the angle of your blade is placed correctly so that as it goes around, it's actually going to cut or use the knife edge to cut into the wood that you want to plane. Okay, now you can see here, if you can see how it's got spring to it. That's so that whenever you grind and shorten the length of these blades, you want to be able to allow them to pull themselves or push themselves back up automatically as you're checking the height with the dial indicator. Like I said, I do not have to be worried about using a dial indicator because these are brand new blades. They're exactly the same length. So with them all the way down to the bottom, they're going to be exactly the same height. Now what I would suggest is using something that's non-metallic like a screwdriver handle and put all the pressure down that you can on those to hold those in place while you do the tightening. Try not to use just your fingers because they are razor sharp. Now I've got these two here to tighten right here yet. Slow and tedious. I'll go ahead and tighten that the rest of the way and be back. Okay guys, remember just a second ago I told you to make sure you get your blade in the correct direction. I was thinking I was standing on the front of the machine as I was verifying rotation. You got to keep your head on straight because I'm on the back side of the machine, so I put the very first blade in backwards. So now's the time to catch it, not 4 blades down the line. So just go ahead and reverse that. Verify in your mind that you've got the right rotation. I'm on the back side, which means the boards are going to go this way, which means the cutter head's going to go this way, and so that blade has to be positioned to take the material off of the board in the correct manner, or it just ain't going to work. Okay guys, no harm, no foul. I got that one reversed, and I put the remaining 3 in the correct fashion. But you just have to be careful. I completely forgot I was on the back side of the machine instead of the front side, so rotation is opposite. And as a testimony to being real careful, if you notice I got a shop-made Band-Aid on that little finger. I'm going through and tightening up all 24 set screws just to verify once I get everything done, snug everything down. And I just bumped the back side of my knuckle on the one of the planer blades, and it just skinned a little bit, no big deal. It just proves I'm a red-blooded American, you know what I mean? So I think the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dig out a little bit of walnut, and we're going to see if we can make some nasty old sawmill lumber look like brand new. And so you know what? I think we put this one to rest for right now. And this is Tractor Man 44, and I'm out here, guys.